Hi everyone, good to see you on my channel today. Today I will tell you a wonderful story. It is full of love and kindness. I hope you enjoy it and I wish you an enjoyable viewing experience. Thank you. Juliana had graduated from the institute and knew that now she would definitely have everything well. Her father and mother are wealthy people. They do not occupy the last places in the city, so they will definitely help her. "Mom, where will I work?" she asked her once. "How should I know where you will work?" The woman was surprised by such a question. "Well, how? I thought you and my dad will help me at first. Somewhere would attach me, and there I would have established myself," said the girl. Ariana didn't understand why she should help, even if it was her daughter. "Well, I'll ask my dad." Juliana shrugged her shoulders. For her part, she didn't understand why parents couldn't help their child get a job. She turned to her father with the same question in the evening. "Why, Ariana, don't you know if we need specialists with her education anywhere?" The man turned to the woman. "Vlad, maybe we'll give her a chance to prove herself. Mom wanted her daughter to be independent. They're not eternal, they'll be gone one day anyway, and they won't be able to help Juliana for the rest of her life." "What are you talking about? Remember yourself. How did you get a job?" Her husband furrowed his brows. "How did I get a job there?" Ariana wanted to hear his side of the story. "I didn't negotiate with anyone, did I?" He stared at her. "Yes, you did, but then I did everything myself," his wife told him. "That's what I'm asking you to do," Julianne interjected. "Yes, I understand everything, daughter," turned to her father. "As soon as I find out where the specialists are needed, I will immediately let you know." The girl's family was not one of the last in the city. Many people knew them, respected them, so it didn't take long to find a job. "That's it, Juliana. Here's your ticket to the future. Come on, dare to continue on your own," said her father once at dinner. "Daddy, you're the best." She heard where her father wanted her to go. "Well, it's too early to thank you. You have an interview tomorrow. You have to get everything ready and pass it," her father told her. "Of course I will." Julianne jumped up from the table. She didn't feel like eating at all. She ran to her room to choose what she would wear tomorrow. After a while, her mother came to her. "Are you going to go in this?" The woman looked at some brightly colored skirts and blouses lying on the bed. "What's the big deal? I'm young." Julianne didn't understand her. "Well, young, maybe you'll wear it to work later. But you should wear a strict suit or dress to the interview," the woman advised her. "But Mom, it's boring," her daughter told her. "I understand, but you're not going to a disco." Ariana went to the closet and started going through the things Juliana had in there. She pulled out a strict black skirt, matched it with a light blouse, and pulled out a vest and jacket. "Go ahead and try it on," she asked her. "Mom, let's do it tomorrow." Julianne didn't want to change clothes or anything else right now. "Well, all right, but don't leave without me," her mother wagged her finger and left the room. The girl looked at the outfit in which she was to go to the interview tomorrow and realized that she would be like everyone else. The interview was scheduled for 10 in the morning. Sabrina arrived a little early. She sat in the reception area and watched the receptionist fill out some paperwork. "Excuse me," she said to the girl at the desk. "Yes, I'm listening to you." She raised her head. "Is the manager a man or a woman?" Julianne asked. "What's the difference?" Smiled the secretary, thinking that many girls think that if the manager is a man, it will be easier for them to get a job here. "No, I was just asking. It's my first job, and I don't know what to prepare for." The girl answered her honestly. "Well, man, John, does that make you feel better?" The secretary tasked and continued to fill out the documents. "Thank you," Julianne whispered. Now she sat and thought about her speech and answers to some questions. Yes, she had a good education, but she also had satisfactory grades on her diploma. The 10 minutes she waited to be called seemed like an eternity. Finally, the principal's voice sounded, inviting Julianne in. "Hello." She sat down across from him. "Good morning. He looked around at the young lady. Here, I want to apply for a job with you. Julianne didn't know how to start the conversation. Yes. I've been told about you. He looked at her resume, diploma and all. So, the girl looked at him hopefully. Do you know our terms and conditions? He raised his eyes at her. Well, a little, the girl honestly admitted. Our working day is irregular. For this you add days to your vacation. There is a lot of work. The salary is not so big, do you agree? He looked at her over his glasses. Of course I agree. Not only was the organization prestigious and good. So Julianne just had to get a foot in the door somewhere to get some experience. Well, if you agree, I don't have any questions for you. Your documents suit me. Your education is profile. So welcome from tomorrow. You can go to work. The man stacked all the papers he had in his hands and smiled at the girl. That's it. She looked at him surprised. What else did you want? He didn't understand. Well, I thought they would ask some questions about the profession. How I was taught, what I was taught, and something else. Juliana began to shake with excitement. Come on. Is this your first job? The man smirked. Yes, Julianne admitted honestly. Then I see. At the Institute you are taught theory, and here you are taught practice. And this is, oh, how much different, said the head of the institution. Julianne did not go home, but flew on the wings of happiness. She imagined how now she would tell her mother that she had passed the interview and she was hired, that from tomorrow she would no longer sit on their neck, but would earn money herself. So, her mom was waiting for her at home. Why are you home? Julianne asked her. Lunch break. Her mother shrugged and looked at her watch. Oh yes. The girl couldn't contain her joy. She had thought that she would prepare everything now, and in the evening, when her mother and father were home, she would organize a mini party for them. But since the woman was already here, the dog confessed everything to her. Yes, I congratulate you. Ariana was happy for her. She was really very happy for her daughter. Tonight they did sit at the table for a while. The father opened a bottle of champagne. They drank to the future specialist. And the next morning, all together from the morning, they drove from home, each to his own work. Juliana came to the office. She was warmly welcomed there. Some of them started talking at once. Others sat silent for a while. Nina, the secretary, came into the office and said that John was calling the new girl and everyone else too. It was clear that now there would be an introduction to the team. And indeed, in his office, the manager introduced Juliana. Everyone applauded and welcomed her. And Juliana noted that there were only women in the team. Only the manager, the driver, and the programmer were men. At first, the girl didn't understand anything. She really understood now the words that John told her when she was hired, that there they studied theory and here practice. Everything she had learned in the notes, nothing could be put into practice. The girls who sat in the office told her a lot of things and showed her. She was very grateful to them for that. When about 6 months had passed, the New Year's corporate party was to take place. Julianne was already a part of the team, and now she was preparing for the party together with everyone else. Julianne, come and see me. John called her one day as he was walking down the corridor from some office. Yes, what do you want? She went into his office. Why don't I give you a ride home tonight? He offered her a ride. John, what are you doing? She looked at him. He was of age, but youthful looking, but that didn't hurt Julianne in any way. She didn't want to be with him. Think well, after the corporate party, when we sit down, I could walk you out, he persisted. Okay, I'll think about it. She didn't know what to say. She walked out of the office and came to her room. What's the matter with you? You don't have a face, Julia asked her, who was sitting with her. Can you imagine? Just now my boss called me to his office and started harassing me. She told her in a whisper. What? Just like that, just like that. Julia didn't understand her. Well, yes. Directly told me, come with me. Now, when she worked here, she was the youngest on the staff. Listen, why are you lost? Go with him a couple of times. Then you'll get a promotion or something else, her colleague whispered to her. What are you talking about? He is my father, if not older than my father. The girl looked at her with surprised eyes. At the corporate party, she sat for a little while. Before that, she asked her father to come and pick her up and call her at the guard post. Her father did so, and the girl went home with him safely. John didn't want to settle down. Time after time, he called her to him, made some suggestions, promises, but nothing worked on Juliana. And, as it happened at the end of March, right at work, the man had a stroke. An ambulance was called, and he was taken to the hospital. John never returned to work. First they appointed an acting manager, and then the head of one of the departments became a supervisor. Julianne exhaled afterwards. She just couldn't believe it could have worked out like that. The new supervisor praised her. She saw how hard Julianne was working, that she could do a lot of things. And unlike the old employees, she grasped things quickly, especially computer skills, and could explain a lot of things to others. In that sense, Julianne, come and see me. Mallory called her one day. Okay, just a minute, I'll finish, said the girl. Finished on the phone and went to the office of the manager. You were hired here for the lowest position of a specialist. If you pass the certification at the end of spring, you can be promoted by 1 rate, Mallory told her. Yes, of course I'll pass, the girl agreed. That's it then, I'll put you on the list and we'll go in May. The woman smiled at her. After that, Julianne went to her room. And at the end of April, they had a cleanup day, and after it all, the workers unanimously decided that it was necessary to organize a sabantoyu. Everyone brought something from home. They pooled their money, bought something at the store, laid a gorgeous glade right on the street and sat down right there. They had a big yard, so the space allowed. Mallory, I have a friend driving up. Why don't you let him come in? Steve, who was working as a driver, asked. Yeah, sure. Let him come in. The more people, the merrier. She was never against her having more people join their group. After that, Steve left and came back with a friend. He was a middle-aged man, tall, handsome. He approached the table, someone he already knew, someone he had met. At that moment, Julianne was pouring wine for everyone. Let me help you. He took the bottle from her hands. Oh, thank you very much. She looked at him. Since it was early in the evening, both the man and Julianne had taken notice of each other. They were now sitting together, talking. I didn't hear your name, he said to her. I'm Julianne, and you? She was doing business. Also really did not hear his name. I'm Michael, he told her. They talked about everything that evening. Julianne thought she'd learned everything about Michael. Then he walked her home. They exchanged phone numbers, and he promised to call the next day. The next day was a day off, so Julianne waited for him to call, thinking he'd ask her out or something. But Michael never called. So Julianne dialed Petey's number. Steve, can't you call Michael and ask him why he hasn't called me? She asked him, ashamed as she was. Couldn't you call him yourself? The driver was surprised. I don't know. I'm kind of ashamed, she honestly admitted to him. Well, if you're ashamed, I'll call him. He hung up, and in 5 minutes, Julianne got a call from Michael. Hello. She picked up the phone, realizing that it was only because of Petya that this man had called her now. Julianne, I'm sorry I haven't called you since this morning. It's just that I've been a little busy, and now that I'm free, I dialed right away, he answered her. Okay, it's okay, she told him. She didn't want him to get in any trouble because of her. No. I'm free now. If you want, I can pick you up and we'll go somewhere, the man offered her. If you are really free, then come over. I don't mind, she told him. Michael was at her place in just a few minutes. She went out to the yard, got into his car, and they drove off. Where are we going? He asked her. I don't even know. In other situations, Julianne wasn't so modest, but now she didn't know what was going on with her, because in front of Michael she was very shy and embarrassed, and generally didn't know what to say. Even when he asked her a question, she would start to pick at it, not knowing what to say, afraid that he would judge her or something like that. "All right then, let me pick where you and I will go, and it will be one small forest." He turned to her and smiled. "Why are you smiling?" She didn't understand. "Watching your reaction," he admitted honestly. "And what should my reaction be?" The girl didn't understand. "Well, you see me today for the second time. I suggest you go to the woods." "And what?" "You are not afraid," he laughed. "With you, no," she told him honestly. They drove off. Soon they were at the place. It was a really remote place in the forest. The forest was actually large, and here was just a clearing. There was a fireplace organized on it. There were big logs around it. Where those who were gathering here were sitting, in the middle was covered with stones for the fire. That's where Michael and Julianne were. "Well, tell me, who are you? Where are you from?" the man began to ask her. Julianne, without hiding anything, told him. He was surprised when he found out who her parents were. It was evident from his facial expression, but he did not say anything out loud. "Well, don't you want to tell anything about yourself?" she asked him. "What should I tell about myself?" "I came from the regional center." At this point, Juliana made big eyes. She rarely heard that someone came from the regional center to live in a small town. "No, don't think so. It was a long time ago. I was brought from there to the orphanage, and when I graduated from there, I started doing whatever I could. First, I worked for one uncle, then another. At some point, I decided I didn't need all that, and I started working for myself." The whole time, Michael was talking. He was staring at the ground. "Okay, if you don't want to, you don't have to tell me." Julianne didn't rush him with any revelations. "Well, why not? It's no secret. It's just, sometimes it's hard when things happen in life. They were here until dark tonight, and when Michael brought her home, she got out of the car, walked to the driveway. He caught up with her. Julianne understood what he wanted, and she was okay with that. The girl moved closer to him and he kissed her. From that point on, they started dating. So, how are things going with Michael?" She would come to work, and the girls would immediately swoop in and start asking her. "Yeah, it's fine. Stop asking me that." She always waved them off. "Well, tell me more about what he says to you. How are you doing? When is the wedding?" "Oh, girls, if we have a wedding, don't worry. I'll invite you to it." Julianne smiled back at them. "Try, just don't invite." At this moment, Mallory entered the office. "Oh, Mallory, hello. Everyone, let's start working." "Enough talking, Juliana ordered, as if she was the boss. The supervisor only smiled after that. After 6 months of meetings, the girl moved in with Michael. He had a studio apartment, but it was cramped for the two of them here. She was used to her parents' spacious apartment. He was used to living alone. "Why don't we get married and expand the place?" Michael suggested it. "Let's do it," she laughed back. "Why are you laughing?" He didn't get it. "Well, who still makes a proposal, you know? As they write in beautiful books." He came to her with flowers, stood on one ostenino, handed her a box with a ring, and not "let's get married." Of course, she was joking, but in every joke there is a grain of truth. "That's it, I hear you," said Michael. And for the next few days the subject didn't come up at all. One day, at the end of the week, when everyone was at work, the door of the office where Julianne was sitting opened, and Michael stood on the threshold. He was in a suit with flowers in his hands. "Do you agree to marry me?" He shouted at the whole organization and handed the flowers and the ring to Julianne. "You what?" "We have a working day." She looked around, but all the colleagues had already gathered around. They clapped their hands. Then the girl realized that they had probably been warned. Now the pre-wedding troubles had begun. For some reason, the groom was more worried than the bride. The same could be said about her father. "Daddy, what are you so worried about?" Julianne didn't understand. She didn't have any excitement at all. She didn't understand what difference it made to live together for nothing, or to put a stamp in her passport. But her father was taking her to different salons. They were choosing a dress. "I like this one." Julianne looked at herself in the mirror. "No, it's too cheap," the father said. "My daughter should be a queen at her party." "All right, let's move on." Julianne looked at her mother, looking for support in her, but Ariana was silent. Finally, the dress was chosen. The guests were invited. The restaurant was booked, the gifts were bought, everything was done. All that was left was to stop by the registry office, to sign and celebrate the affair. All colleagues from work were invited, but many for some reason did not come. Then they explained it by the fact that someone has small children, someone has grandchildren. Someone has grandchildren, someone simply, the wife did not let go, and so on. Mallory, who was at the celebration, congratulated from all the colleagues of the newlyweds. She wanted the girl also came to work in this outfit. Now Juliana has begun an adult life. They decided to sell Michael's one-room apartment. Juliana's father added money to it, and they bought a spacious two-bedroom apartment. Everything was fine, nothing was going to go wrong, until one day Michael came home drunk. "Who are you texting?" He walked up to her and snatched the phone out of her hands. "Michael, what's wrong with you?" "I'm just surfing social media." She looked at him. "Yeah, I know you're social media. You're probably texting men, aren't you?" He was very annoyed. Julianne hadn't noticed it at the time. But when it started happening again and again, she realized it was a problem. Michael didn't drink every day. He might do it once a week or once every 2 weeks. But when it happened, it hurt a lot, and not physically. The man never raised a hand to her. He always hurt her with just a word. Julianne would come to work, sit down at her desk. The girls could see she wasn't herself. "What's going on with you?" Julia asked her one day. "Okay, it's fine." She didn't want to complain to anyone about what was really going on with her. "But we can see that you have no face on you. You're sitting there." And as if you want to cry, the second girlfriend sat up to them. "Girls, yeah, you know." And she told them everything that's going on with her at home. "Oh, you know what, Julianne? We didn't want to tell you this, but your Michael's a bit of a walker," said Barbara, who had just joined the conversation. At that moment, Julia gave her such a look that Julianne realized it might be true. In the evening, she went to her mother's house. No one asked her anything. She started telling the woman herself what was going on. "Oh, daughter, this is family life. You have to get used to it and ignore it." Ariana remembered how her own husband had once accused her of all sins. "Mom, how is this man so good? He loved me so much, he gave me flowers. Did everything I wanted. What happened to him now?" Now Julianne gave free rein to tears. If at home and at work she could not afford it, but in front of her mom she was not shy. "You silly girl," her mom hugged her and held her close. "How much more you have to go through. You have no idea. I didn't think that when we got married it would be like this," the girl told her. "Why don't you stay at my place tonight?" her mother asked her. "No, if I don't come home it will be even worse," Julianne answered her. "The main thing is not to argue with him, or you may even raise his hand," worried her mother for her daughter. They had been married only 5 years, and they already had such problems. One day at work, Mallory invited Julianne into her office. She too had noticed that the girl wasn't doing well. They had a heart-to-heart talk, and then Mallory invited her over to her place. "You what? I cannot." Looked at her subordinate. She did not understand how you can be friends with the boss, and she is also older than her by 12 years. "Julianne, although I am older than you, but only by a few years, I see that you need to talk to someone. With me you cannot hide anything," said her supervisor. "Okay, I'll come." It also enticed the girl. From that moment, Juliana started a friendship with the leader of her organization. And now when Michael came home, if he did, they were bound to have a quarrel. The man could tell her about the size of her salary, his and hers, that she made pennies. He maintains everything. the house and hers, among other things. Oh, if in the morning he saw that she did not talk to him, he realized that he was guilty of something, immediately began to apologize, learn, and they were fine again. "I know why things are so bad with you and me," Julianne once said to Michael when things were idyllic between them. "And why is that?" He looked at her. "Because you and I don't have children," she really thought. "And whose fault is that?" She could see that he was getting aggressive, but today she knew that as long as he was in that state, he wouldn't say or do anything. "I think it's you," she tried to speak as calmly as possible so as not to make her husband angry. "What do you mean, me?" "I'm fine with it." He was shocked that she had such an opinion of him. "What do you think about me?" "I'm a young girl. There's nothing wrong with me. We have a physical every year, not once. No abnormalities have been detected." A quarrel was about to break out, so Julianne shut up and didn't bring it up again. Mallory turned out to be a really nice person. Julianne liked talking to her. Firstly, because she could talk to her about any topic. And secondly, she knew a lot of people who could be useful to Juliana in the future if she got to know them now. But the only problem was, if they met, it was not without alcoholic beverages. It was some cafes, some restaurants. And when the girl came home, she and her husband were bound to have a fight. "Julianne, don't go anywhere today. We're going to my place." The supervisor called her on the internal phone. "Mallory, I can't. My husband is waiting for me at home." Julianne tried to talk herself out of it. "Come on, don't make it up. You have to relax sometime too." Mallory couldn't take no for an answer. "Well, okay, but not for very long," the girl agreed with her. That evening they sat at Mallory's house, not even going out. But when Juliana got home, there was such a scandal there that she had to go to her mother's again. She decided that if after that they made up, she would not be friends with anyone else, but would spend some time with her husband. Her friends began to resent her. Her mom also didn't understand why he forbade her to go to her relatives. And at one point, when there was a corporate party at work, Michael ran there. "Let's go home," he yelled at her. "Michael, calm down. Now I'll put on my coat and we'll go," Julianne calmly told him. She was very embarrassed in front of her colleagues, but this time he didn't care what anyone thought about him. They came home, and again the scandal. Again humiliation, tears. Julianne couldn't stand it. She called Mallory, said she was coming to her, and she was only glad. "Don't cry, my girl," she comforted her. "Listen, maybe I should divorce him. While we weren't married, everything was perfect, and now I don't know what started. 2 years of happiness, and all the other years, it's just, I'm in hell," cried Julianne. "Listen to me. It happens in every family. You just have to get through this crisis in the relationship. If you get through it now, things will only get better later," her older friend advised her. "I don't even know. My mom also says that I shouldn't take it personally, but I can't take it anymore. It's just a nightmare. These jealousies. Yes, if only it were true that I'm somewhere with someone doing something. But after all, never even looked at another person." You could see that Julianne was getting hysterical. Nothing could help now. Not even the sedative was calming her down. Mallory didn't want the girl to go home, but Juliana insisted on it, and today, when she was home, Michael was already asleep, so there was no fighting or swearing. Perhaps from the fact that she'd had a lot of jealousy, Julianne lay down and fell fast asleep. The next day, Olga wasn't at work because she was sick and on sick leave. Barbara sat down with Julianne. "Listen, do you really believe that your Michael has no one?" her colleague told her. "Light, please. I don't want to talk about it, and I don't want to think about anything at all." Julianne sighed, that everything was starting again. "Well, I don't know. You better think about it, because that's not the way a man who loves doesn't act," unequivocally kept up Barbara. "Look, why would you do that? I didn't catch him by the leg in bed. I didn't hear the smell of other people's perfume. I didn't see any lipstick. Nothing, that's why. Julianne stopped talking because she thought that if she started to develop this topic now, it would be worse for her. She came home today. Michael was gone. She dialed his number. He picked up, said he was busy, though she'd heard he was out with friends and drinking again. And if that was what was happening, Julianne knew for sure that unequivocally he would come home and there would be a scandal again. She made dinner, put everything on the table, showered, changed, and went to bed. She thought that if he came home and saw her sleeping, he wouldn't wake her up, but it didn't wake her up. "Julianne, where are you?" She shuddered and woke up when she heard the screams. "Michael, I'm already asleep." She came out of the bedroom. "So what? Sit with me," he asked her. "Okay." She sat down in the kitchen at the table. He started to eat. "Tell me." He looked at her. "I have nothing to tell you. I worked my ass off at work today and came home," Julianne said. "And about men?" He started his favorite topic. "Yeah, what guys?" "Michael, calm down. I'm either at my mom's, or I'm at home, or I'm with Mallory." "Well, I'm not gonna cheat on her," Julianne almost screamed. She went to her room, lay down, and thought, because everything does not happen for nothing. There is such a saying that if a man himself does it, then the other suspects, and suddenly Michael, that's it. So Barbara's right. He really has another. And now it's all coming out on her because he realizes that he himself is cheating, so he suspects her. Julianne lay there and thought about it while Michael was in the kitchen and then in the bathroom. By the time he came into the bedroom, she had it all wrapped up in her head. "What are you doing up?" he asked her. "I'm waiting for you," Julianne replied. "Well, tell me about it," he asked her. "You know, I was thinking, there is never smoke without fire. You are cheating on me. That's why you suspect me." She told him in such a tone that now he could not object. "Yes, what are you saying? I work day and night. I bring money." He started his song. "Yeah, where do you work day and night? In a bar?" The girl was getting upset and couldn't stop herself. "Calm down," Michael shouted. "Yeah." She could see he was getting nervous. Not that she was thinking about anything, but at least now it wasn't him accusing her. It was her accusing him. He could have stopped the accusations, but he was only flinching away. Now the girl decided that she would postpone this conversation until tomorrow, because she didn't understand Michael's condition. And tomorrow, on a sober head, she would talk to him about it. In the morning at breakfast, she poured him coffee, stood and watched. "What are you doing?" He looked up at her. "Don't you want to continue yesterday's conversation?" Julianne asked him. "No, I don't want to." From these words, the girl realized that it meant that he remembered everything, and it was okay to talk to him. "Tell me why you are jealous of me. I have never given a reason. You have never seen me with anyone, and now you are doing this to me," she told him. "God, I'm so sick of this." Michael got up from the table and went to work. "Yeah, you're sick of it, but I'm not," she said after him, but he didn't hear it. After work today, Julianne went straight home. She really wanted to make things right with her husband, so she went to the store and bought chicken, potatoes, tomatoes, and cheese. She decided to make French-style meat, which was Michael's favorite dish, and she wanted to please him. Oddly enough, he came home early today, too. Wow. It's not even 7. 0 p.m. And the whole family is home, Julianne said aloud. They sat down at the table in the kitchen, each realizing they needed to talk, but neither one could start the conversation first. "Do you realize we have a problem in our family?" her husband told her. "Of course I do." She began to put on his plate what she had cooked today. "I wanted to solve them, so now I will often be away from home," he muttered on an exhale. "Where will you be?" She didn't understand. "I decided that I will go on business trips myself." He did not look at his wife. "Do you think that a short separation will be good for us?" she asked and stopped. "Yes, I do think so." He looked up now. Julianne laid everything out, sat down at the table, and thought, "Well, let me at least try. If it doesn't work out, then we'll work things out differently." He wasn't talking anymore, he was asking. "Well, if you want so much, let's try." Julianne agreed with him. And in 2 days, his wife was already packing his bag. Michael was going on a long business trip. Well, how long will it last? Julianne asked him when he was about to leave. I don't know. 2, maybe 3 weeks now. The next ones will be shorter. He kissed her on the cheek. He left, and Julianne exhaled. She thought maybe this would be better, and they would wean themselves off each other, maybe a divorce that would make it easier. But how wrong she was. By the 3rd day, she missed her Michael so much that she was walking around and wouldn't let the phone out of her hands. If she was somewhere else in the office, when she heard her phone ringing, she would run to her room. "Hello," she said. It was her husband calling. "Julianne, hello." That's what he called her only when they were dating. "Hi, love." She was starting to feel differently about him, too. "I miss you so much," he told her. "You have no idea I do too," she admitted. After that, whenever he came over, they had such a stormy meeting. They would sit in the kitchen talking about everything, then move to the bedroom. In the morning, they couldn't part because Julianne had to go to work, and so did he. In the evening, Michael would pick her up, bring her home. They felt like they were on their honeymoon again, but 2 weeks later, he had to leave again. "But can't you cancel these business trips?" she begged him. "Who am I going to send if I canceled them myself and said I would do it?" Now he was at a loss. And again, a week, a second parting, again calls, again love. After a while, no matter who said what to Julianne, she denied everything because she realized how she couldn't live without her Michael. Did you know that all business travelers cheat on their wives? Barbara started her song again. "Oh, and who did you cheat with when you went away on a business trip?" Julia teased her. "What's that got to do with me?" "I'm talking about men." Barbara looked at her with judgment. "And what? You think that all men, when they leave, they immediately start looking for a woman on the side?" Julianne didn't believe her. She felt for Michael. She realized that he really missed her, and it wouldn't be the same if he had a woman. Once again, after this conversation between the girls, Julianne thought. Michael arrived home. Julianne was waiting for him as usual. "My favorite hello? I probably won't do anything. I'm very tired. I'll go get some sleep." He left for the bedroom. Michael. She followed him, replaying Barbara's words in her head. "But can't I ever be tired?" "I can't, really. I can't." He looked at her. "That's it." Something clicked in Julianne's head again and again, the tears, the recriminations, the accusations. "Tell me, did you get someone on your business trip?" she asked him in the morning. 25 again. He turned away. "Why would you say that?" "Just read on the internet that all men who go on business trips necessarily cheat." She told him the words of Barbara, but did not betray her. "Well, if they send you on a business trip tomorrow, you arrive tired because you've been on the road for 2 days. And then I tell you that you cheated on me there anyway." He turned the situation to her. "What does that have to do with me?" Julianne didn't understand. "I love you very much. I'm crazy about you. That's why I'm jealous and everything else." He didn't know how to explain it to her. "Michael, I understand, but..." She cried. "What? But why are you crying?" "Nothing." She shook her head and went to her room. In the evening, they sat at the table again. He took her hand and pulled her close to him, but Julianne pulled away. "Well, what do you like today, cheating?" He wanted to make a joke, but it didn't work very well. "It's starting all over again," she told him. "What do you suggest we do?" Michael was very nervous today, so he was ready to just drop everything and leave. "I don't know," Julianne muttered. "I do," he told her. "I." She waited. "Remember how on the first business trip everything was fine? We missed each other, and then we had 3 very good weeks, and now the only way we can make it work is if we separate and live apart," he told her. "What do you mean, separate?" She didn't understand. "Well, if you want, I can go somewhere else. Since I don't have a place here, or I can stay in this apartment, and you can go to your mom's," he told her. "Michael." She looked up at him, realizing that if the situation had already come to this, they would probably just break up in the near future. A day passed, a second, a third, and Julianne decided to accept her husband's terms. She packed all the things she needed and went to live with her mom. "Hi," she said to Ariana when she opened the door. "I don't understand." She looked at her daughter, who was standing with a bag outside the threshold. "Did you two split up?" "No. My husband suggested that we take a break from each other and live separately," she confessed to her mother. "What do you mean separately?" asked the same thing as her daughter Ariana. "Mom, please don't pester me now. I'm in a very bad mood. I feel very bad at heart. I understand that everything in my family is going to hell, but I hope that things will get better for us. Because I feel that there is a relationship between us, that there is love between us." As if someone jinxed it, she came to the kitchen, sat on a stool, and asked her mother to make her tea. "Daughter, calm down, please." Mom felt so sorry for Julianne, although she didn't know what to do. "Mommy, well, why is everything happening like this?" cried the girl. "Everything was so good. He was so good. Why is it like this?" "Listen to me. Wouldn't you like to go somewhere?" Ariana asked. "Like what?" Her daughter looked up at her. "Well, completely go to another city, there to live, and he will come to his senses. Come and start to return you." The woman proposed a plan. "You what? I have a job here, a house. You, after all," could not understand Juliana what she was offered. "You think it over," Mother seemed to insist. "Okay," took Julianne's mug, which contained hot tea. Well, listen. If you don't want to go to another city, if you don't want to leave everything, let's go somewhere. Take a vacation. You'll get a vacation, right?" the woman asked. "Well, I think they will." Julianne actually thought to herself at that moment that maybe going to the seaside would be good for her. But then again, if she didn't warn Michael about it, then there would be accusations that she wasn't there alone. "Well, what are you thinking?" her mother urged her on. "What will Michael say when he finds out?" she wondered. What he will say, and will say, it will be later. Now the woman was like one who came up with an idea and immediately wanted to realize it. Okay, after thinking about it, Julianne agreed. She decided that a vacation with her mother would be good for her. For a while they chose their vacation packages and got ready. Her father approved of their decision because sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone and change something. But Julianne couldn't help thinking about her husband. Why had he done this to her? Why had he let her go so easily? They flew to the sea, checked into the hotel. Everything was fine. "So, shall we go to a restaurant tonight?" Ariana asked her daughter. "Yes, that wouldn't hurt either," Juliana agreed. Her mother did everything she could to distract her, but she understood that their story with her husband was not over yet, and they would still meet, talk, and maybe things would get better. Julianne turned off her phone so that she wouldn't see the calls and messages she was getting, and there were many, including from Michael. At first she would read, but she immediately wanted to call back or answer, so she turned her phone off completely. "It's so nice here," Julianne said to her mom lying on the hot sand. "And you didn't want to go," she smiled. Every day the woman thought of something to make her daughter smile. The days of rest passed very quickly. It even became a pity that they did not take the vouchers for more. But now there was nothing left to do but to fly back home. They boarded the plane, and as they took off, Ariana started asking Julianne about her vacation. "Oh, you know, I really enjoyed it. And next time, as soon as we have a chance, we will fly somewhere with you," her daughter told her. "Oh, maybe not with me," winked her mom. "Oh, don't get me started on that just yet." Julianne realized that she would really have to meet Michael and talk, but she was delaying the moment as best she could. At her mom's house, she turned on her phone. Immediately the missed call messages and everything else started coming in. "What's that beeping?" her mother asked her. "Yes," everyone wrote, whoever could. The girl looked at the screen. She wanted to see something good from Michael. And so, somewhere between the messages, she saw that he regretted their breakup and wanted her to come back. "Mom, She turned the phone to her so she could see what was written on the screen. Well, what are you waiting for? Call if he's already on his own. She didn't understand the woman. Okay, I'll call him tonight, Julianne agreed. She wondered for a long time what they would talk about and whether they should meet and move on with their lives. But toward evening, she made up her mind and dialed her husband. Hi, she said when he answered the phone. Julianne, why was your phone off? Where have you been? Do you know how worried I was? What happened to you? He pelted her with questions. My mom and I went on vacation. She didn't want to make excuses, but it looked that way. You could have warned me, Michael told her challengingly. Yeah, I knew you'd mention that to me, Julianne smiled. Come home, he told her at the end of the conversation. So you can start pestering me again with jealousy and all these claims that you don't like? She asked. Come back, I promise you that everything will be fine, Michael said, and Julianne believed him. As they talked, she turned around and saw her mother standing there looking at her. Well, what did he say? Ariana wondered. He told me to come back. Juliana smiled with one corner of her lips. Well, what are you waiting for? Pack your bags and go to your husband, her mother told her. Ariana did just that. She entered her apartment and immediately felt something native, her own. It was obvious that Michael was waiting for her because there was dinner on the table, champagne, 2 glasses, some light salad. You're finally here. He hugged her. Michael, I can't live like this. I can't live like this when I'm being pummeled all the time. I'm not doing anything wrong. I guess if I wanted to cheat on you, I'd just leave after this. They hugged, standing for a long time in the hallway. After that, he walked her out, sat her at a table, poured sparkling wine into glasses. They drank. After that, he started wooing her, putting on the salad, pouring the wine. That's so sweet, she looked at her husband. Yes, while you were away, I realized I'd do anything for you. I'm sorry for my, antics when you have to cry or something, he apologized to her. Okay, let it be in the past, but I love you. And that's why I'll trust you that things will be different now, Julianne said. Michael walked over to her, hugged her, and again, for a few days, they had the same kind of relationship as they had at the beginning. Julianne went back to work and the girls were waiting for her, wanting her to tell them how it went. You know, I'm a very sensitive person, so I can't say anything. As soon as I hear something, I start thinking. But I love my husband so much that until I see him with someone, I'll never believe he's with someone, Julianne said. Come on about your husband. Tell us how you had a good vacation. That's all the girls were interested in. Everything is fine. It's good that my mom talked me into it, because at first I refused. She showed me the pictures and gave Barbara and Julia the souvenirs she bought for them. After that, normal life began. Work in the morning, home in the evening. Michael behaved very well, unlike the way they lived before. You could tell they didn't have any fights at all now. Girls, let's get together somewhere, Julianne suggested, when it had been 3 months since she'd been back. She thought that now that Michael had calmed down, he wouldn't say anything if she went with her friends to a cafe or a bar. Where are you going? He asked her. We decided to go to a cafe with the girls, she said. Wow. It was obvious that Michael wanted to say something else, but he restrained himself. You don't mind, do you? His wife turned to him. Of course not. Go get some rest, but he wagged his finger at her. Everything, please, stop it. Nothing will happen. Julianne didn't want to talk about anything like that. They went to a cafe today. They had a very nice sit-down, talked, discussed everything. Let's meet like that every Saturday, Barbara suggested. I don't mind, Julianne replied. Of course I don't mind either, Julianne said. Everything was going well in Julianne's family now. She couldn't believe it. You've been looking so good lately, her co-workers at work told her. Sure, I used to live like a powder keg, but now it's quiet and peaceful. Julianne answered them and smiled. Don't you think it's the calm before the storm? Barbara asked her. Stop adding fuel to the fire, Julianne interrupted her. And so, on another Saturday, when the girls got together again and were sitting at a table in the cafe, a merry party came in. Julianne, look, isn't that Michael? Yes, that's him, Julianne looked over there as well. So he's in a hug with some girl. Barbara picked up on the same theme, trying to prove to everyone that she had once been right. I'm going to change that. Julianne got up from the table and went to the table where her husband was sitting. Julianne looked at Barbara, thinking that their evening was over. Nothing that would be sorted out. Barbara wondered how it would end. Hello? Julianne approached the table. Oh, Julianne, hello. She saw her mutual friends. Michael, I need to talk to you, the girl said calmly. Yeah? Well now, he got up from the table and went with his wife to the exit. Tell me, who is this girl? Julianne folded her arms on her chest and waited for an answer from her husband when they were already on the street. It's just friends. We decided to get together just like you. He began to justify himself. That's no way to go out with friends. She remembered Michael putting his arm around that girl's waist. Don't start, please. He didn't want to argue, and nothing more. Let's go home, she told him, and started hailing a cab. But we just got here. He didn't understand. And you're leaving right away, she called for a car, and now they were waiting for it to arrive. They sat in the back seat, both of them not speaking to each other. Julianne was angry, and what was in Michael's mind was unknown. They reached the house quickly, entering the apartment. Julianne walked to the kitchen, and her husband went into the room. Michael, come here, she called out to him. Well, what else? He came into the kitchen. What do you mean, what else? You don't want to tell me who that girl was? She asked him. I told you it was just friends. You didn't understand what the problem was. Well, if before I just went to my mom or to the boss, you started yelling at me that I cheat on you, that I go to unknown places. Now I see you walk in with a woman in your arms, and when I start asking, you tell me it's just a friend. I should be calm. She almost yelled at him. Please, Julianne, calm down. I told you it's just a friend. Once again he repeated to her. I don't believe you. She turned away to the window and stood like that for a long time. Well, how do I prove to you that it's just a friend? He didn't understand what he should do now. Why should I prove anything to you? You just don't do it, that's all, she said, just like her mom used to say. All right. Well, you'll never see me with anyone else again. I'm sorry I did that, Michael said. Okay, let's go to bed, but I'll never forget what you did today, she told him, and left the kitchen. She didn't want to go to work the next day because she knew that the girls would start asking her questions because they had been with her yesterday and had seen the same thing. But there was nothing to do, so she went. Well? Barbara looked at her. What well, girls? Please don't pester me today, Julianne muttered. Well, tell us we're interested, Julia asked her. What to tell? Nothing happened. He naturally denied that they were just his friends, and he didn't do anything like that. The girl told them. And I warned you. Barbara wagged her index finger at her. Oh, that's it, girls. Let's get to work. Julianne knew it was going to be like this today, but she didn't want to. Neither hear nor think about it. She came home in the evening. The table was set, just as it had been when she had returned to Michael's house from her mom's. Sweetheart, he greeted her with flowers. Oh, right, my bad, she shook her head. I don't get it. I want to surprise her and she gives me this, he told his wife. A man who gives flowers as an apology was wrong anyway, she answered him. I think we talked about it last night and we're done. Michael couldn't talk about it anymore. Okay, broken up so broken up. She went to her room to change. And what? You won't even sit with me. Michael stood in the hallway with flowers in his hands. I'll be right there, she promised him, and disappeared into the room. After that, they sat at the table again. He told how they met this girl, where they met, and in general, who she was and how she got into his organization. Come on. Enough. It was already clear to me. To be honest, Julianne didn't want to bring it up either. They'd had a very nice dinner tonight, and when they went to bed, Julianne believed her husband. She decided that he wouldn't have told her so much and done such a thing for her. Nor had he ever done such a thing before. As they continued to live, Michael began to give her flowers more often. He sometimes picked Julianne up from work. The relationship was working itself out. Maybe she had to see him with a girl like that to be jealous. And he realized how unpleasant it was to be accused of something. But things were perfect between the couple now. Every day Julianne cooked dinner. Michael came home from work on time. There were no more complaints, accusations, neither from his side nor from hers. Did everything work out? Julianne looked at herself in the mirror. She loved Michael very much. She didn't want to lose him, but she couldn't live like before. And now that such an idyll had formed, she didn't want it to ever end. Today, Julianne walked to work happy. She was overwhelmed with feelings of tenderness and love for her husband. She couldn't even think that something bad could happen. "Hey, everybody." She came into the office. "Oh, you're in a good mood." Barbara smiled at her. "Yeah, what's to be sad about? Everything's fine at home and at work too," she said. "Okay, let's get the day started," Julia said. "Julianne, don't you think this is the calm before the storm?" Barbara said to her. "That's what you're always like." The girl turned to her. "Like what?" Her colleague didn't understand. "If things are good, you absolutely have to say something or spoil it." Julianne sat down at her desk, took a pen in her hand. "I just say what I think. And by the way, sometimes it turns out to be true," Barbara muttered. Yes, true. Julia, as well as Juliana, did not want to listen to Barbara. Work was going easy today. There was very little to do. "Girls, let's go to the cafe for lunch," Julianne suggested it. "You've never been there before," her coworkers told her. "Yeah, I've never gone before. But today I'm in the mood to go out. Something to do." "I'm all for it." Julia raised her hand. "I'm in too," Barbara said. And it was getting close to lunchtime. The girls were ready to leave the building and go to the cafe that was across the street. "Girls, I don't know myself. Even when we were married to Michael, things weren't like they are now. I'm afraid to jinx it. But it's really good," Julianne said. "Well, stop bragging," Barbara interrupted her tirade, "and we'll see what happens next." She believed her friend, of course, that everything was going well, but she didn't like to hear about other people's happiness all the time. They sat in a cafe, had a very tasty lunch, talked about various things, discussed husbands and work and how things were in the country, went back and went about their business. While Julianne went to see her boss, she got a message on her phone, which Barbara informed her about. "Someone texted you there," she told her friend. "Come on, I'll look at it later." "I didn't have time to be distracted," Julianne told her, and started doing some work. It was only after an hour that she remembered what her colleague had told her. She took out her phone, looked at it. There was an unfamiliar number on the screen. She opened the message. It said she was drowning her neighbors. "Girls." She jumped out of her seat. "What's wrong?" "I think we're drowning the neighbors. Someone texted me." She showed the girls the phone. At that moment, Julianne didn't think about anything. She ran to her boss. "Mallory, you know I just got a text saying we're drowning the neighbors. I need to go home right away," she told her. "Yes, of course, Julianne. What are you talking about?" "Go." She immediately let her go. Julianne didn't say anything else to anyone. She grabbed her bag and ran home. Then she thought she should call a cab to get home faster. As she drove, she looked in her phone for services that could help her, and when she was near the entrance, she thought she could call her husband, but she didn't think about it. She ran up to the floor, opened the doors, and just when she wanted to go to the bathroom, she heard unfamiliar laughter in the bedroom. That she had not heard such laughter. It was unequivocal, and it belonged to a girl. There was no doubt about it. Juliana did not do anything. She tiptoed out of the apartment, went to the neighbors. It turned out no one had drowned anyone. "Hello," she said hello to the woman who lived one floor below them. "Oh, Julianne, you come in and I'll tell you all about it," she told her. "Tell me, how did you get my phone number?" Juliana asked. "You know, one time I asked your husband about something, and he told me to ask you, and he gave me your phone number. And today, when I saw him walk in the doorway with a young girl, I texted you that you were drowning me." If I had written something else, you would have put it off. Not gone and caught me, the woman said, her eyes running. Thank you. You know what they call a bare favor. Julianne turned around and walked out. Her eyes were full of tears. As she walked back to work, she thought about how today would have been better. She wouldn't have come home at this time, and she wouldn't have found out that Michael was doing something with someone somewhere. But on the other hand, he would still be doing it, and she would be in the dark. Julianne entered her organization and went straight to the supervisor's office. Mallory, I'm here to see you again. She sat down across from her. Yes, Julianne. Tell me what happened there. Are you back already? She was surprised that everything happened so quickly. Yes, I'm back. Everything is fine. Mallory, I want to ask you to fire me without working, Juliana said. She took a pencil that was on the desk of her boss, and now she was writing on the paper. I don't understand what the problem is. Did I do something wrong or what? Mallory was very surprised, even more so. She was shocked that just today until lunch, everything was fine. Everyone was smiling. Everyone was smiling. Everyone was happy. And now, all of a sudden, the best employee in the company came in and asked to be fired. Michael and I are not doing well again. I want to quit and get out of here, said the girl. But, Juliana, you realize that if you run away from problems, they cannot be solved. Problems need to be discussed, solved, advised her boss. No, I don't want to discuss or solve anything. I've already decided everything for myself. I won't get away from it, the employee said. Listen, Julianne, why don't you consult with someone, the woman said. Mallory, I've worked for you for so many years. I've never been on sick leave. I've never been on the bad side. And I want you to fire me, preferably without working. The girl stood in front of the desk. Julianne went and got a blank sheet of paper, wrote a resignation letter, and put it in front of her boss. Okay, I'll sign it now. But know that if you want to, within 6 months, you can come back. Your place will be waiting for you. Mallory answered her and signed the application. After that, Julianne went to her office. The girls didn't know anything yet. She walked over to her desk and started packing her things into a box. What are you doing? Barbara asked her. I'm quitting, Julianne answered them. What? Both Julia and Barbara jumped up and walked over to her. Yes, I've decided that I have to quit and leave. She wouldn't look them in the eye. She was so embarrassed because she had bragged to them this afternoon about how well things were going with her husband and everything else, and it had turned out to be just stories. When everything was packed, she turned to her friends. All right, girls, don't hold it against me. I'll come back tomorrow and then. She stopped talking. If she came tomorrow, she'd have to go home today, and she couldn't go back there. But if she went to her mom's, Michael might come there too. So Julianne thought she had to do everything today. Well, what if you shut up and then? No, there will be no later, she said. Now I'll go to the store, buy a cake, and we'll have tea. She put the box on the table, informed Mallory that she would be back soon, and went to the store, bought some champagne and cake, and went back to work. They had a really nice sit-down. After that, Julianne had already picked up her things and headed to her mother's house. The cab came quickly. She sat in the back seat and wondered what to do about the phone. She couldn't give it up completely. She might need it anyway, but she didn't want to talk and listen to Michael either. The girl rang her mother's doorbell. She opened the door. Hi, Julianne said, and walked with a box and a bag into the hallway. Did you two have another fight? The mother didn't understand. No, Juliana shook her head. She sat down in the hallway on a small chair and looked at the woman. What then? Why are you with your things? Ariana didn't understand. Nothing at all. I quit my job, her daughter told her. How? Why? Now the woman was confused. Just yesterday she called her daughter in the evening. Everything was fine. She was happy, laughing, telling her mother how wonderful everything was and everything. Mom, don't ask me anything. I'm going to tell you something now. Please accept it. Julianne got up, went to the kitchen, asked her mother to put the kettle on. The two of them sat together. The woman looked at her, realizing that Juliana was in some kind of trouble. "Well, tell me what you wanted to tell me." When she poured the tea, cut the cake, sat down next to her daughter, she sat down. "I found out today that Michael has a girlfriend, another girlfriend. They were at our house, and so now I don't want to see him or talk to him, nothing at all. I just want to go somewhere so I don't have to see anyone," Julianne muttered quickly. She looked at her mug. "Well, at least leave an address," her mother asked. "No, I'll change my phone number, and when I need to, I'll let you know where I live. But I'm not going to tell you the address now because Michael will come to you, and he can get it out of you." Julianne decided that she would leave tonight, because now that she hadn't returned from work, Michael might start to worry and look for her. "Well, okay. What about the money?" her mother asked. "I'm about to get my vacation compensation, a settlement. I think I'll have enough for the first time." Julianne didn't want to ask anyone for help or anything. No, the mother went and got her bag, took out some bills from there, and handed them to Juliana. "Here, take these." She held them out to her daughter. "Thank you. I won't say no," took the money. After that, they finished their tea. Julianne called a cab, took her documents, and went to the train station. As she drove, she looked on the internet for places to go. She wanted to go to some remote village so that it would be impossible to find her at all. Well, she found what she was looking for. She bought tickets, took the train first. After the train, she took a bus, and by bus, she got to where she needed to go. She walked, looking around. There were some fields around, tall grass growing everywhere, and she saw a ruined church up ahead. It all fascinated the girl, but at the same time it scared her. She imagined that she had to live here now, but where to live and how to live was still unclear. It was late evening, so she knocked at the first house she reached, but no one opened the door, and it was not surprising because the light inside was not burning. Then the girl walked further down the street, saw a house with a light on, and knocked on the window. "Who's there?" She heard it. "Hello, can I come into your house?" she asked when she saw a woman in the window. "Who are you?" she asked her. "I have just arrived in your village, and I would like to find a place to sleep," Julianne answered. A few minutes later, an old woman appeared at the gate. She let Julianne into the house. "Hello again, my name is Julianne," she told her. "And I'm Maria," her grandmother answered her. From the outside, it might have looked like she was angry about something, but she wasn't. "I came to you from the city. I did not know where to go. I want to live somewhere alone, so that no one bothers me, to think about how everything is happening in life now." The girl began to tell. "Well, come in and stay. Are you hungry?" asked Maria. "Yes, I wouldn't mind something to eat." Julianne didn't hesitate because she was really hungry. She sat down at the table. Grandmother at that time did some magic near the stove and put a spoon in front of her, put a plate, put a mug, splashed something in it. From the smell, Juliana realized it was kvass. "Thank you very much. If you need money, I can pay," the girl told her. "I don't need anything. Stay here in the village for as long as you like. I won't be alone." The landlady waved her hand. "Here, thank you. I'll just see you tomorrow. I'll find something tomorrow." She didn't want to embarrass the landlady. "Come on, girl. Stay if you want. It's more fun. There's a room over there. I'll make you a bed." She showed her hand where Juliana could sit. She thought it was unreal how lucky she was to have knocked on the first house and to have found such a nice hostess. She ate and went to bed because she was tired and just wanted to sleep. Julianne made it to the bed where her grandmother had made her bed. When she lay down, she just sank into the softest feather bed. How good it felt, she said, and just fell into sleep. In the morning, when the girl woke up, she realized that she had slept well, and now went into the kitchen, where Grandma Maria was preparing breakfast. "There's the sleepy head," the woman told her. "Why, what time is it?" Juliana looked at the clock. It showed 9:30 in the morning. "Yes, it's early for you city people, but we get up at 4, 5 in the morning," the woman answered her. "What are you doing up so early?" Juliana asked. She didn't understand. "If you don't work and you don't have anything to do, why get up so early?" "What do you mean, what?" "A vegetable garden. I have chickens, lots of them, 2 pigs," the woman said. "Well, I'll have breakfast now. I can help you," answered the girl. "No, I've already done everything myself," grinned Grandma Maria. Sat Juliana at the table and began to feed her pancakes with jam. "Tell me about your village," the girl asked. "Yes, we used to have a village. You know what it was like. A lot of people lived here. Young people came here. Everything was good. There was a school, post office, medical center." The woman began to remember the old days. "Well, and then what all disintegrated?" The girl wondered. "Yes, when collective farms ceased to exist, the village was unprofitable, and we were abolished. Young people began to leave for the city. Those who were older stayed here," said Grandma Maria. "So much land is wasted." Julianne looked out the window. "Yes, but we're doing something there. There are only 10 houses left. The rest are all empty. Then, if you want, you can occupy any of them. No one will say a word to you." Baba Maria couldn't calm down. She kept walking around the kitchen, putting the kettle on, taking mugs, bringing sugar. "I see. And do you have a bathhouse?" Juliana asked, because since yesterday I had already wanted to take a bath. "Oh, how can a village have no bathhouse?" Grandma Maria shook her head. "So we can flood it?" Julianne asked her. "Of course, if you bring water, we'll flood it." She smiled at the women. "Okay, I will." The guests didn't mind at all. They had breakfast and then went out into the yard. The woman showed them what she had in her farm, where the chickens were, where the pigs were, told them how she took care of them and everything else, and took Julianne out to the vegetable garden. "Wow!" Julianne saw how long the beds were. "Yeah, I do everything here by myself," as if the woman was complaining and bragging at the same time. "All right, I get it. Where do you get the water from?" Julianne asked. "There's a well nearby, but it's hard to lift the buckets there. And at the end of the street there's a well, so choose where it's easier for you, and carry it from there." Grandma Maria gave out all the valuable instructions. She showed me where to pour the water out and went into the house to prepare dinner. Julianne, who had never been used to hard work, now went to the stand because it really seemed easier for her to fill a bucket of water and then carry it home. But as she went a couple of times, she realized that the well just outside the gate would probably still be better than the standpipe. She dropped the bucket down, started to lift it. 1, 2, 3. It turned out not to be so heavy. When the 4 flasks were standing outside the bathhouse, she went to fetch her grandmother, told her she had brought everything. One they poured into the vat for boiling hot water. The other they poured into the plastic tank, and 2 were still left to spare. "That's how good you are. And I thought you were a city girl. You'll never make it," Grandma Maria told her. Julianne was proud of herself, too. She was so tired she just wanted to lie down. But Grandma Maria wouldn't let her. She led her into the house where it smelled really good. It turned out that she had roasted a goose in the oven. And when she put the dish on the table, it was so fragrant that Juliana almost fainted, for she had never seen a goose roasted in the oven before. And when she began to eat it, the meat just melted in her mouth. "Baba Maria, thank you very much." She looked at the woman. "Come on, girl." "It's an ordinary dish," laughed Grandma. "No, you can't even imagine." After that, together with the grandmother, they flooded the oven. And while it was heating, the woman decided to introduce Juliana to the neighbors. She took her to the neighbor's house. There was an old woman living there, too. "Casey, come out," she called out to the landlady. "What's the matter?" The woman came out. She was full-bodied, full of health. "Hello," Julianne said. "Hello." "Oh, hello. How come you're so young?" She didn't understand. "I just came from the city," Maria told her. "Wow, and I thought that no one comes to our village anymore. Was surprised by the one called Casey. After they met, they invited her to come in the evening, but Casey refused. Come on, we've heated the bathhouse. Julianne brought water. Come on, we'll wash you in the bathhouse and give you a nice dinner," the woman called her. Juliana felt so funny listening to these women. Eventually, Casey agreed, and when Baba Maria and Julianne returned to the house, they began to prepare a holiday dinner together. Julianne couldn't wait to go to the bathhouse, but she knew she had to wait a little longer. Michael, however, decided to make a phone call that day when Julianne didn't come home in the evening and then didn't come home at all. He dialed his wife's number, but she was unavailable, so he got worried and called her mother. Ariana answered. "Hello. Please tell me, did Julianne come to see you?" he asked her. "No, she didn't. What happened?" The woman lied. "She didn't come home either," he answered her. "Well, maybe with her friends somewhere." The mother tried to say something about her daughter. "Do you know who else to call?" he asked. "I don't know," she chided him again. When Michael hung up the phone, he decided that today he would not call anywhere else because it was very late, and tomorrow morning he would go to her work and talk to her, find out what had happened. He made a few more calls and then went to bed. Sleep did not come, but the man realized that if he did not sleep now, he would be very bad tomorrow. In the morning, he got up. His head ached from lack of sleep. He washed his face, got dressed, walked from the driveway to his car, got in, and drove to Julianne's work. He walked quickly to her office. Julie and Barbara were already there. "Hello?" He walked in. "Oh, Michael, hi." Barbara looked at him. "Where's Julianne?" he asked. "Oh, she quit yesterday." Mallory stood in the doorway looking at the man judgmentally. "How did she quit?" He didn't understand. "Just like that, she wrote a letter and quit her job," the girl said. "And then what?" He didn't understand. "That's it. She quit her job. We don't know anything more about her," they began to say. Michael took the phone out of his pocket and left the office. He dialed Ariana's number. "Did you know your daughter quit her job?" he asked her without greeting. "No," she was lying to him again. "Why are you so calm, like you don't care that your daughter is missing?" Michael told her. "Look, Michael, it's your problem. If your wife left you, you deal with it yourself. I'm telling you, honestly, I don't know where she is or what she's doing." Now she was telling half truths. "So you should file a police report," the man said. "No, I assure you, you don't need to write anything. Nobody kidnapped her. She left voluntarily. She let her mother know that she knows what her daughter did, but she won't tell him anything." Michael did everything he could. Through mutual acquaintances, he found out where Julianne could go, with whom she could go, and everything else. But no one knew anything. Meanwhile, Julianne was already very well established in the village. She took over an empty house. She and Maria had chosen it together. The woman helped her with some things. It was very cozy at her place now. Maria, Casey, a couple other villagers often came to visit her. They sat around the table talking about everything. "So tell me, why did you come here?" The woman did not understand how such a young girl and came to such a backwoods. "I just got tired of living in the city. There is bustle, and here is peace, and my husband began to freak," she finally admitted. "I see, but we live here. We have nowhere to spend our money." "Nothing to do," complained local residents. "Would you like me to teach you how to weave?" Julianne remembered that she used to be into macrame. "Sure," they said. "Just need to get some thick threads, you know, like shoelaces," said the girl. "Would clotheslines work?" Casey asked. "I think so," Julianne answered her. "Then I'll get some." She went to her house, and in a little while she came back with a big spool of it. "Well, yes, that will do, but there's very little of it," Julianne said. "Well, at least we'll learn, and then I'll call my grandson, and he'll come and bring us everything we need from the city," said Nancy, who was also with them. "So then we take all the sticks and make loops like this." She began to remember herself how she used to weave. A month later, the women had made a lot of loops. They had owls and beautiful pattern pictures. "Julianne, look how beautiful they are. Let's try to sell them all," Maria said. "How can we do that? There's not even a connection." The girl laughed at her. "And you go out there on the edge of the village, there is everything. We go there to call our relatives. the woman advised her. Julianne did just that. She took pictures of all the items they had woven, went to the edge of the village, to where Maria had shown her, and put it in the classifieds that she was selling it. "If we earn money, I'll buy a piglet for myself," the neighbors said then. "You'll have to make money. You've got to get some thread somewhere now," Julianne told her. "That's what I promised," said Nancy. She called her grandson to buy everything she had written to him and bring it to the village. The grandson arrived the very next day. He had brought everything he had been asked for and was now laying it out on the table. "Okay, I need to see this one. This one." Julianne went over it. She saw that Nancy's grandson was out. Everything was in place, so it was safe to let him go. She walked out of the gate and into the street. Oops. Ran into a man. "Hi, and I'm waiting for you here," he told her. "Why?" She didn't understand. "Just wanted to meet you. My name's Barry." He held out his hand. "Julianne, nice to meet you," she said. "Julianne, what are you doing out here in the middle of nowhere?" He didn't believe she had just come here to teach women how to weave. "That's none of your business," she answered him, and wanted to move on. "Shall we go somewhere?" he asked her. "Where?" "In the woods," she laughed back. "Well, at least to the forest," he supported her joking conversation. They stood. Julianne thought of Michael, for the first time since she had been here. She'd gotten rid of Sergei today. She'd gone home. And tonight she'd been harassed by the broads. What she'd talked to him, what she'd done with him, they wanted to gossip. But Julianne didn't want to. But then Barry started coming to the village more and more often. He asked Julianne to go into town with him, to go to a cafe or something, and once he even tried to kiss her, but Julianne dodged him and told him not to come back. "So, Julianne, how are we doing on the sale?" the women asked her. Now they were not only excited to weave, but also to sell. "Well, I'll go and see tonight." Julianne went to the edge of the village to go online again to see what had sold and what hadn't. And indeed the sales went. They were very good. The grandmothers had enough not only to buy a pig, but many other things for the house, for the yard. "Oh, Julianne, God sent you to us," they said. "It was I myself who came to you." She laughed back. She'd been living in the village for over a year. She liked everything here, especially the fact that there was no communication, nothing. A car came once a week where they could buy different groceries and stuff. It was stressful at first, but then she got used to it. Barry kept coming. He did everything he could. He gave gifts, brought flowers, and asked her to marry him. But Julianne wouldn't give up. Meanwhile, Michael was in town drinking heavily. After he could not find his wife, the business stood up. It was necessary to follow everything. But Michael was not up to it. He was still trying to see something about Julianne somewhere on social media, still in other places. Constantly checking with his parents to see if they had learned anything, but no one knew anything and couldn't tell the man where Julianne was. Near Michael's house itself, some kind of cafe had opened up. There were a lot of young people there, booze and everything. And Michael was addicted to going there. He could go to work in the morning, and in the evening he could be seen only behind the bar in this very pub. And tonight he was sitting there too. The bartender was just pouring him shots. "Can I have one?" Another man sat down next to him. The bartender put the shot on the table. "Hello." He picked up the shot, turned to the stranger and gestured that he wanted to have a drink with him. The stranger didn't resist. He raised his stack. They had a drink. After that, the conversation went on for a while. "Michael?" He extended his hand. "Barry," said the other. "Nice to meet you," Michael answered him. "Is something wrong?" Barry asked him. "Why would you say that?" He didn't understand. "But it's a work day. And if you get drunk on a work day, you're not doing well," Barry said. "Yeah, well, I haven't had a good day for the last year and a half," sighed Michael. "Oh, I see." They had another round of drinks. "Are you having problems too?" Now it was Michael's turn to ask. "Well, problems are not problems, but there is an interesting story," said the interlocutor. "Barry, tell it. It will be easier," advised his new acquaintance. I went to the village. My grandmother lives there, so it was necessary to bring them some threads. They wrote a list, bought everything, brought it, and there is a young girl, pretty met. She lives in the middle of nowhere. I go to her. She comes to me. I ask her what you're doing here, but she refuses to answer. I've offered her everything, restaurants, flowers, gifts. She won't accept anything, Barry said. Wait, what kind of threats? Michael asked him. Well, these ordinary, thick clothesline in a skein. They weave their macrame and then sell. Teaches grandmothers, Barry went on to say. Well, what's her name, this girl? Michael was so interested that Barry was even a little tense. Julianne, he replied. And what's yours? Can we go with you to this village? Michael asked. Why don't you tell me what's going on? I don't understand. So we'll meet here tomorrow morning and we'll go there. You show me where she lives. They had another drink, and Michael hurried home. His hands were shaking because he wanted to go there right now, but he realized that Julianne wouldn't accept him in his condition. So he came home and went straight to bed. In the morning they met Barry, and he was already waiting for Michael when he came outside. Hi, they said hello, and after that they got in the car and drove off. Tell me exactly what happened, Barry asked again. You see, my wife. He began to tell him the story, how everything happened, and that now he does not understand why she left him. And when Barry told him about the young girl's weaving, he thought there are no such coincidences. They reached the village very quickly. Barry showed Michael where Julianne lived, and when he knocked on the window and she looked out, she almost went crazy. She ran out of the gate, saw her husband. Everything started to churn inside. She really missed him, she thought, because she loved him so much. But remembering what she had heard the last time, she couldn't forgive him for it. Why did you come here? She asked him. For you, he told her honestly. I'm not going anywhere with you. She turned around and wanted to go inside the house. Please listen to me, he answered her. Okay. She led him into the house. They sat down at the table. Why did you leave? He asked her. Don't you have any idea? She didn't look at him. She sat with her arms folded across her chest. No, I don't guess, he answered honestly. Why? How is your young mistress doing? Julianne came up trumps. What mistress? What are you talking about? He didn't understand. Yeah, how? Which one? And Julianne told him all about hearing her and why she left. Michael took a deep breath. Let's go home, he told her. I'm not going anywhere with you, she answered him. Okay, then I'll tell you everything right now. Why didn't you yell at me then? Call me, come into the room, check that it wasn't a mistress. He looked at her and realized how much he loved her and how much he missed her. Well, who was it then? The girl wanted to know. It was my daughter, Stacy, he answered her and looked up. What? What else are you going to make me think of? Laughed Julianne back. She knew he would find any excuse to get her back now, but to say such a thing was unimaginable. I used to date a girl before you. I was young. She was a few years older than me. Apparently she got pregnant, but she didn't tell me. And then I met you and we were friends, he answered her. What else are you making up? Julianne still didn't believe him. I'm not making anything up now, Angelica. Stacy's mother has gotten sick. At first the girl went to the hospital to look after her, did everything. And then when her mother died, she made up her mind and called me to ask for help because she was all alone. She would have been taken to an orphanage, or I, as a birth father, could have taken her for myself, he said. Okay, how will you prove to me that she's your daughter? Julianne asked. Here, he put the papers on the table. She opened them, saw that he had indeed taken a paternity test. When she read the whole thing, she looked up at him with big eyes. What have I done? She said. Yeah, he shook his head, realizing what she meant. God, why couldn't I ask you? I could have just called you. You would have told me everything. No, I had to hide for a year, so what? She went to her husband, hugged him, and cried. That's it, stop crying. Pack up, let's go home, he told her. But I can't leave everything here. She looked at her cozy house. Come on, it will be our summer house. If someone needs it, we can even pay money. Michael said it back to her. Okay, they went outside where Barry was waiting for them. Well, I take it you've already met Barry, Michael smiled at his wife. Yes, Julianne replied. She was embarrassed to look into her husband's eyes, realizing that Barry had told him something about her. They got into the car, drove home, and the first thing the girl asked to take her to her parents. Didn't you talk to them either? Her husband turned to her. Sometimes I call, but very rarely because there was no connection. Juliana mumbled. They walked in. Everyone was happy to see her. Her mom was also happy that her daughter and her husband had reconciled. There were no more disagreements between them. After that, they drove home. Where's Stacy? Julianne asked her husband. She went to school and I got her a separate apartment, he said. Let's go and meet her, Julianne, still completely disbelieving that this was his daughter. Okay, they drove. When Julianne first saw Stacy, she realized that the girl looked just like her father. They sat, drank tea, talked, and went home. Now I have to call my friends, she said, and picked up her phone and went into the kitchen. She called Julia first. Then she dialed Barbara and suggested they come to her place. They didn't refuse. They wondered where their friend had been and what she had been doing all this time. They went to Julianne's house to visit. She set the table. They sat in the kitchen, began to talk. Well, tell me. Barbara put her hands on the table and rested her head on them. You have no idea. She told them everything. Will you go to work? They asked. I'm not going to yet, but I'll think about it, Julianne replied. Good. They sat on and on until Michael joined them. The next day they went to Stacy's again. She turned out to be a wonderful girl who knew a lot of things, and talking to her was a pleasure. Michael, I'm sorry for everything. She hugged him. It's okay now. Both you and I know that we've made a mess of things, so I won't let you go anywhere else, her husband told her. Yes, and you, they hugged again. Listen, let's take tests. Why don't we have children? Maybe if we had a son or a daughter, we would notice less unnecessary things, Michael suggested. Okay, I agree. All these years he had refused to do it. The very next day, they were at the clinic, having passed everything the doctor had told them. Now all they had to do was wait. Michael had gotten his firm up and running. Everything was going well, and Julianne now realized that she would not listen to anyone else, and if something happened, first of all, she would talk to her husband. They were invited to the clinic, both of them very worried. Hello, said the doctor to them as they entered his office. Good morning, have a seat. He began to go over the couple's results. So, what do we have, you? He looked at Michael. Are fine. And me. Julianne was really tense now. And with you? He stopped talking. What, I can't have kids? Julianne was getting hysterical. Unfortunately, yes. The doctor nodded and looked at the girl. This can't be true, she cried. But it's true. He gave them all the papers. They walked out of the clinic building. Julianne had no face on. She walked, tears rolling from her eyes. I'm sorry, she muttered to Michael as they got into the car. For what? He didn't understand. I thought I was a young and healthy girl. And here you are. She stopped talking. It's okay, he pulled her against him, kissed her. They arrived home. For a few days, Julianne was depressed. She couldn't do anything. She couldn't eat or drink. That's when Michael called Ariana, summoned her home. Hi, what's wrong? Her parents came running. I don't know what to do, Michael said honestly. Okay, right away, Julianne. Hi, she walked into her room. Why are you here? She raised her tear-red eyes to her mother. To talk, she said honestly. And what? Talking will help me get pregnant. Julianne asked her mom. No, but we can solve the problem in a different way. Ariana was sure of it. Okay, all together they sat down at the table in the room that Michael had set up. Tea, cookies, candy. It was relaxing. Have you thought about considering an orphanage? The mother asked. What? Julianne gave her a startled look. Look at your husband, and he was raised there too. The woman pointed at her son-in-law. Why, that's an idea, he supported the woman, as did Julian's father. Okay, I'll think about it, Julian said, and sighed. Nothing to think about. Let's go right now. Let's see. Michael took her hand. They left the house and got into the car. Their parents were with them. They now realized what a blow their daughter had received. They drove up to the building of the orphanage, got out, but Juliana stood and could not move from her seat. Come on. We're close by. Her husband took her hand. Okay. She nodded and followed him. They walked in, talked to the principal. She took them to one of the groups. Mom. A boy ran up to her. What? Julianne was confused. You're my mom. The boy didn't ask, but asserted, What's your name? Michael sat down in front of him. Austin, he answered proudly. Okay, Austin. Let's go. Let's talk. The man took him by the hand and wanted to take him away while his wife looked at the other boys. No, she stopped him. What's the matter? He didn't get it. He chose us, so we'll adopt Austin. She looked at her husband and didn't want to look at anyone else. Okay. They talked to the tutor and went back to the principal's office. Wow, that was fast, she marveled. Yes, we need a list of documents, Michael said. They were leaving today. Julianne smiled. 2 weeks later, they arrived with a complete package. Julianne had been here many times during that time. She had brought the kids different sweets and toys. Then she and Austin walked in the yard. She liked the boy. Mom, how long before we go home? He asked her. Sure enough, she looked toward the entrance where her husband was supposed to come out. When Michael appeared, he was pointing his fingers up. It meant only one thing. Now Austin was truly their son. My favorites. Julianne hugged her husband, who was holding their son in his arms. All right home? Michael asked. Yes. Everything's ready for you there, Julianne told Austin. I'm so glad, Mommy. Austin looked at him with a look that Julianne couldn't help but cry. At home, indeed, one room had been converted into a nursery. There was a crib, a dresser, a sports corner, and most importantly, there were a lot of toys, and not shared, but only his. Mom, come visit, Julianne called her one day. Okay, we will, in the evening, the woman told her. They arrived, sat at the table. Did you go to the sea? Julianne looked at her mother. Why don't you call me? Michael asked her. I thought you didn't have time, she smiled. I'll make time for you, he hugged his wife and child. I told you that next time you would not come with me, but with your husband. Her mother winked. Why don't we join them? Her husband asked Ariana. Will you find the time? The woman asked him. Of course, he kissed his wife on the cheek. Then it's decided, let's buy the tickets and go. Ariana got up from her seat. She held out her hand to Austin. Come on. I'll show you my toys, said the boy. Wait, I'll come with you, rushed off to them Grandpa. But first we have to go to the dacha to see how my neighbors live there. Julianne snuggled up to her husband. Of course, he hugged her tightly. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to the channel. Like it, write comments if you like the story, and see you on the channel.